It's a very neat setup. I love it.
No, and it sort of does all the things that you need virtual production to do, but
Yeah.
without the complexity.
Without any of the complexity.
Really, it's like bare bones. Anyway, this week we're talking to Jonathan Brigden.
That's
That's how
right.
you do it.
Brigden.
There we go. I knew I was going to get it wrong.
No, I am Brigden.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Everyone goes Brigden. It's Brigden because you just always spell it that way.
Oh, yeah.
Your hands want to type it or write it that way, but it's Brigden.
Brigden.
Yeah, Jonathan Brigden.
There we go. So tell us all about Jonathan Brigden. Tell us a little bit about your journey.
Do you want the full journey?
Well, we've only got an hour and 20, so maybe a truncated. I was told.
Well, it's going to take 30 years otherwise.
Right, I was told once, because I was asking people sort of to do this, and then someone said, "Why don't you say just in a few minutes? Just
in a few minutes,
cover what Jonathan Brigden
is
and how he got to where the heady heights,
the squiggly career.
The squiggly career.
Okay, very briefly. I was a young 20-year-old cellist.
Okay, this is a great start. I'm just going to check on the levels.
You check on the levels. I was a 20-year-old cellist. Now I'm talking to the camera. I was a 20-year-old cellist at the Royal College of Music.
That's so cool.
Did you not know that?
No, I did not know that.
So I was, I studied the cello at the Royal College of Music. And for a good 10 to 15 years, I would say from about 1996 to about 2011, 15 years.
Right.
I worked in a lot of music industry stuff.
Right.
So I ran orchestras, I ran an opera company.
Wow.
I did all sorts of weird things. Then I realised when we started having children in about 2003 that money buys you things. And I, wasn't making an awful lot of money. So I met a guy called Timothy Bird, who was a big influence in my life. And he's a creative director and designer, broadcast designer, and wanted to work in theatre, basically. So we started working in immersive production of theatre. So we did a big show called Sunday in the Park with George, which is a Stephen Sondheim musical.
Right.
In 2006, 7, 8, and it started off at the Many A Chocolate Factory in South London, when transferred to the Wyndhams in West End, won lots of awards, and then transferred to Broadway. And we did this amazing sort of, this was all the beginning of like Disguise, what was called D3 back then.
Right.
And another media server called Catalyst and all of that. So a company called UVA was also doing similar stuff to what we were doing.
So,
and then they came up with D3.
What was the year was this then?
2006.
All right.
Yeah, so it was like the dawn of projection mapping and that kind of stuff. Yeah. So I'd done all this kind of music industry stuff. I used to fix orchestras for bands. So I used to work with the Divine Comedy and even did an album with Paul McCartney.
I've heard of him.
Yeah, no, that was a little musical pinnacle.
Right.
Yeah, and then over the years, sort of started working because of the theatre stuff. We got well known we did some rock and roll stuff and some big design for tours, and it was all video projection mapping and that kind of thing. And then again, it was very difficult making money in that world and running a business, so I started to work in corporate. Kind of events and that kind of stuff, and video and film and all of that kind of stuff. Animation, lots of animation, 3D animation. And then started doing things like projection mapping for Game of Thrones premieres and this kind of thing.
When you say projection mapping, what do you mean by that?
So projection mapping is is projecting 3D content onto 3D objects, basically.
Right. So
we would projection map buildings, and we would projection map all sorts of things. And this was like the first time we really did it was in 2005-06, and it wasn't even a thing then. I mean, people have been doing it for a long time, but we had been doing it at that kind of level. And then we projection mapped the Guildhall in the city.
Right.
For Game of Thrones, we kind of did the big, ice wall.
Got you.
with the lift going up and down. And then we did a really big event at the Tower of London, and we projection mapped the whole moat wall.
Got you.
Dragons playing on the wall.
So
and
this
that
is
kind of
where
stuff.
you've got multiple projections,
Yeah.
and they all have to sync.
They all
mesh with
sync and they're sort
they
of blended, and you have to.
right.
It's sort of like it's where I really sort of got my head into the technology of it,
Right.
of content production, which is kind of where we are now.
Yeah.
Here, sitting in your studio. So then COVID happened, events stopped.
I've heard. Yeah.
And like a lot of people who were sort of the pioneers of this kind of world, you know, you had obviously everything going on in Hollywood with The Mandalorian and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But we were like, oh, that's cool. Let's try and what we're going to do. Let's learn that. So I'd been working with a very long-term friend and colleague called Nick Dyer, who's a technical, what I would call crazy brain.
I've heard of Nick.
Yes.
I've witnessed such things.
And he was working with me. He actually rented a desk in our business, in our office.
Right.
And also his work all dried up. So I went, do you want a job? And he went, yes, please. Give us a job. And he locked himself away in our studio, which was not dissimilar to this, really, in terms of size and green.
What are you talking about? We're in a.
Oh yeah,
we're
sorry.
in some sort of quite weird.
We're talking very deep. We're
tiled-
talking deeply.
It's deep talk today. Deep talk today.
Deep talk. And yeah, so we, you know, Nick locked himself away. We got a grant to buy a Stipe, Red Spike,
Right.
and some camera equipment and that kind of stuff. And Nick sort of locked himself away, and we started working with a company called Grey Matter / iMag Displays, who were an AV company. And we managed to get a lot of our event work back, doing what was then termed XR stages, XR production for live events. And again, sort of pioneered into that world. So that's where we are now. And then since then, we've started Distortion Studios, which is a side hustle, which has become. I've started a business by mistake.
Seemed like a good idea at the time.
It seems like a good idea at the time.
Here's a question for you, actually, around acronyms, because I've never really quite understood what XR meant.
Well, I'm a bore about this. So
Right,
XR,
bore away.
technically, I would say, is a small x, R, big R, like
Right.
algebra. So the small x replaces V for VR, A
Right.
for AR, M for
Got
MR,
you.
right?
Yep.
That is the pure, what I would say, what
So-
XR is. But
Right.
XR, big X, is what we would term extended reality.
Right.
And then there was a studio in LA called XR Studios. I don't know when they set up, but they were around in 2020. We have a great marketing person at what is Studio Giggle, which is our sort of mothership. And she managed to get us at the top. If you typed in XR Studio, we would be number one.
Wow.
And we didn't have an XR Studio.
Brilliant.
So we went, we probably should have a studio. I mean, we had our green screen studio, but it wasn't like a commercial studio. It was something that we used to set things up.
Right.
It was like a sort of what, you know, you call a sandbox. If you were in tech. Pretentious tech person.
Test something, make sure it breaks.
Exactly.
Doesn't break when you install it.
Exactly. And we thought we should get one. So we went to Creative UK, which is a sort of, what is it? It's like a sort of association for creative businesses.
Okay.
But also is a sort of front end of an investment fund. And they, I don't know, they were mental, but they lent us some money.
Right.
It's a loan. And we set up Distortion Studios.
right.
And so we're very, we're part of what they would call their portfolio. And we have a great relationship with Creative UK still. And they have funded people like Dimension Studios. And
Are they an NGO? Are they not?
Totally.
Governmental or
They're sort of
non-governmental?
governmental. I think they're what you would call a quango, maybe. I don't know. They're not an NGO. They're a non-governmental organisation representing creativity in the UK. It used to be called Creative England.
Oh yeah.
Or
gotcha.
Creative Wales, Creative Scotland, and now they're Creative UK.
UK. Got you. Because someone made.
Yeah.
Connected the dots. So going back, so XR is that. So you mentioned some other acronyms.
Sorry, XR, extended reality. So when we were doing
Right.
these, so when we first got the idea to kind of do these corner stages, which people, you know, we weren't the only ones people were doing. What that would mean was that you'd have an LED floor, an
Right.
LED wall, a corner stage.
Yeah.
In a corner, literally a corner, like the side of a cube, one corner of a cube, and then the Unreal software and all the integrated software would then create an entire environment.
So it would
if you move the camera around.
right.
So if you move the camera off the LED, it would continue into extended reality.
Yeah. So it uses a bit of jiggery pokery to make so the wall stopped, but
the content would
the computer
continue.
graphics, and then if you moved the camera, everything was locked, so you would you couldn't see the scenes. Okay, so that's extended reality.
What we would call extended reality.
The big X.
Big X, I would say, rather than an algebra X.
Then did you say MR? Did you say MR?
MR, mixed reality.
Yeah. So what's mixed reality?
Mixed reality, I would say, it's a good question. I mean, it's sort of a mix of VR and AR, really.
Right.
So,
okay.
And the real world. And there was a sort of period. You don't really hear it about it anymore.
No,
but there was a period where AR wasn't really around too much. VR was starting to gain traction, but you would probably talk about it in terms of putting on Google Glass back in those days,
right.
and you'd call that MR, where you'd mix reality, you could see the world, but you'd have an overlay.
An overlay.
Yeah.
So a bit,
which then would become augmented reality, I suppose.
And augmented reality that's a bit like the not the Pikachu,
augmented reality was Pokemon Go.
Pokemon Go. That's where you look at something, a physical device, and then it's seeing this table in front of us, but also it's see a little dinosaur that's talking to you. Right?
Exactly. So that's AR.
And you can do that. They do it in, I think, Strictly Dancing and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be AR, and I think you could call it MR. I mean, you know, people interchange these things. XR was definitely, if you looked in the kind of slightly more scientific world, they would use XR as like the overarching term for all of those things, whereas we would call it extended reality.
Got you.
Probably massively incorrect.
We're probably going down too much of a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So now you've got this thing.
So we've got the studio
called Dimension Studios.
No.
Oh, okay.
We're not Dimension Studios.
You're not.
That's another lot.
Oh,
We're
okay.
Distortion Studios.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Distortion.
Yep.
Distortion
Studios. But we started getting into the tech around literally April 2020, and by September 2020 we did our first virtual production, I suppose.
Wow.
So Nick really got onto it, and we had to look our client in the eye and go, yeah, we can do this,
right,
and really mean it, because obviously you don't want to turn up at the event and it go wrong.
Right. No, totally.
We got to about, I would say, July, and I was able to look our client in the eye and say, we have this.
So what was the this? What was that for?
It was the integration of all of this technology. It was
right.
a very complicated, what you call a stack of technology,
right?
Especially back in those times. And I think it was Disguise, it was Unreal, it was Notch. We were using Notch as well, which is a generative animation program. Which we coupled with Unreal. We were sort of trying out different things. It's the camera tracking hardware, which could be Moses or Stipe or Encam as it was then, which is now Zeiss, or any one of those. There was one called Vanishing Point then as well. I don't know if that's still going. And then you had to kind of choose your poison and go with it.
Right.
And then there was all the kind of integration softwares like Pixatope or Asymmetry or
VizRT, is that one?
No, VizRT is more of a generative graphics software that people use for sports, a lot of game shows, that kind of thing.
Right.
We tried lots of them. Assimilate is another one.
That rings a bell.
Yeah, and we eventually a few years ago settled on a thing called Shield and Stage Precision.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Stage Precision has really been our poison for a long time. It basically means that we're a bit more of a turnkey kind of studio, so it just
And
is
what's
always
because
on.
when you said it's like the stack, right? So you've got the stack is camera.
Yeah.
There's a lens on that as
Yeah.
well, right?
Which of course is then geared,
Is
so you've got your aperture and your focus and
and
your
then
zoom,
and
then that drives
yeah, that goes
the
off to a little bit
software.
of that goes off
Yeah.
to another device,
Yeah.
like a thing,
A little
which is
computer.
a little computer,
Yeah.
and then that sends that off that information about its tracking. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, there's a tracking thing on here, which is part
Yeah.
of it. That goes into a machine that's running normally Unreal Engine. Then you got to get what that's doing out to the LED wall.
Yeah.
So that
But I think the whole stack is so complicated, and there are so many ways of doing
it, right?
So many ways of doing it, and so many studios are doing different things and doing it right, but they've all got their own methods.
Their method, right?
Yeah, and they work perfectly well for them, but they're equally complicated as well. So there's no one way of doing all of this, but you've got to kind of try out lots and lots of things and see what works for you, for your studio, the kind of work that you're doing, all of that. And we feel like we've settled on a really robust kind of, especially in the studio, unless we're popping up in someone else's studio where you've got to set everything back up, calibrate everything again. We feel like it's we can come in the morning and be
turn it on and it works.
Yeah. So was always the aim, and that's where we're at.
And that's what you want, right? You don't want to get into a mindset of having to fix things constantly. It's absolutely not.
No, absolutely.
So take us back to that first project. What was it? What was the first? What was that?
So it was a corporate event, basically.
Right.
So we'd been working with this amazing, finance company, basically. And we've been working on their events for years, creating all their content. And so it could be, we'd create these lovely scenes. Like they were always in a really nice ballroom in a very posh hotel, like the Savoy, for example. We'd been working for years. And like one year we reprojected the room of the Savoy onto the Savoy, but it was windowless, so you could see out the windows and there'd be little things happening out the windows.
Right, okay.
Or you could see out and it might be Hong Kong, because they were talking about a company that's based in Hong Kong.
Right, got you.
So we've been working with them for years, and we got the dreaded call in April, I suppose March, April, May, going, well, obviously we're not going to do a live event this year. And we're going, oh crikey, what are we going to do? Our business will go under and all of this. And this was the need to kind of invent something. Well, we felt like we were inventing something, but everyone was inventing it all at the same time. Everyone
in their
was
own
on
silos,
in their own silos.
Yeah.
And then we quickly found that loads of people were doing it, and then there was this whole community that you are now championing.
Well,
that you could don't snigger at yourself. You can reach out to anyone that you want to in this. And what we found was that everyone was just like, "Oh, you're doing it too. How you doing this? How you doing that?" And we found it was a really, really open, with a few exceptions, was a really open community of tit for tat, almost like you've got that. Well, we've got this problem. Can you help? And there was a lot of that going on. And Nick was very, very embedded in all of these communities, whether it was through Discord channels or
he pops up all over.
He pops, He'll suddenly he won't look for months, and then he'll suddenly go, "Oh no, you need to do it like that." And then someone's like, "Who's this guy?"
Yeah, I know. He's brilliant.
Yeah,
I was going to say I haven't seen him on the channel for a bit, and then suddenly he just popped up the last couple of days, I think.
Yeah, someone will put something out and he goes, "Oh, I know how to sort that out. I'll help you."
Oh,
yeah. No, he's very good. And and so we were getting to that stage, and then, like I said, we had to then look this client who was our biggest and best and most. I mean, they were loyal. They also, they're a finance company. Finance companies are by definition risk adverse in terms of how they're they're risky in terms of what they invest in, but as soon as they want to get on stage, you can't make anyone look silly. No. They're very, very important people, and they have to be 100% confident this thing's going to work. Right. So we were able to look them in the eye and go, yes, we can do it. And our client went, okay, I trust you. And we went, thank you. Cool. And we went, and here's, signed off on the purchase order, and off we went and did this event, and it was amazing. Brilliant. I mean, it was far from perfect, but it was a really, even in September 2020, it was at the stage where people, it was a bit of a lost opportunity, really. But people didn't realize what they were looking at because it wasn't perfect, but it was kind of like, oh, they're in this set, and da 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 da.
Right.
If we'd have turned it off and gone, look, this is where we actually are,
Yeah.
everyone's brains would have been blown. But it was so kind of, I don't know, it wasn't effortless, but it kind of looked fine and looked perfect in terms of if you really looked at the edges, you could see. But it felt like it felt almost like people didn't really get it, so it almost didn't look that fancy.
Which helps.
Yeah,
because it's a bit like when you watch, I don't know, if you watch Jaws today, right? Or
Yeah.
if you look, well, if you just watch some CGI back done 20 years ago, you look at it and go, oh, that looks awful.
Yeah.
But at the time, it's like, because you've never seen it before, it's like, wow.
Well, the next year we were still in lockdowns, coming and going, and there was no live events. So we rented a slightly bigger studio, and we built a little set, like stage, which was kind of quite curvy, and it had a central bit of LED in the middle floor,
right?
And then we had a curved screen, so we were sort of starting to lean into virtual production then.
Yeah, because I was going to say, because what you've explained is a live event thing.
Yeah,
which we see those kinds of things. Virtual, but I guess most people think when they go, oh, virtual production, that's in film,
TV,
TV, or film. Really.
Most of the people that were doing this, unless they were in Hollywood, were experimenting with this on LED corner stages and that kind of stuff. There was very little virtual production going on in the UK at the time. And we were all cutting our teeth doing that because there was a need. And so there was a lot of AV companies, there was 86 and iMag Displays and Pixel Evolution. Everyone was kind of setting up these corner stages because they needed to work, right?
Yeah. Totally.
And White Light had started their stage. Four Wall started their stage at the Lancaster Ballroom. Everyone was at it.
Yeah.
And so there was this kind of rush to kind of keep people busy. And we were really proud because we got there quite early in September, and we were one of the first people to employ freelancers back into live events. And suddenly we had this whole studio full of people with masks on,
right?
With distanced out and
yeah.
And testing every day, and people would drop with COVID, and we'd have to replace them out, and all of that kind of stuff. It was a really interesting and innovative time, but also we were all quite scared at the time as well. Let's face it.
It was pretty weird, wasn't it?
Yeah. Weird. And so anyway, so the following year we had this LED center circle, and then we had this lovely stage, and then we had an LED wall.
Right.
And then the LED wall was fed in with Unreal, so we could put vistas out of the window. So we were starting to put like London out of the window, created in Unreal. And then they might be talking about Shanghai, and we put Shanghai out the window. And then the great thing was that at the same time we integrated Notch and put an AR plate in. So I'd be Mr. big time, finance guy who was doing their presentation, which is a PowerPoint fed into a PIP, a picture-in-picture, which was floating next to them in an AR plate. So, and then also the opening film all floated around on the stage. So there was this AR mixed reality kind of experience. So we really kind of then pushed the boat out again with utilizing all of these different creative techniques. So we were kind of coming at it from a creative solutions situation.
Yeah. Got you.
So we were creating these designs. We'd always designed the content and created the animations and all of that kind of stuff. And now we were just applying this, and we could like have them floating in the middle of the stage. And it was just a game changer for us.
And that was that. So there was no audience, right? There was
no audience in the room. No. It was all, they were all dialing in on a platform.
Do you think, not that it was wasted time or effort, but all of that kind of stuff that you did, have you ever done it? Have you ever done it since? Now it's open.
We've done AR on all sorts of projects.
So
we've done some VR stuff. We've done lots of Notch stuff. We've worked with Notch in installations and all sorts of things. So everything that we've done in those years, we've used again, but in different ways.
So it's open. It's open doors in different ways.
Totally.
But you've not replicated that kind of thing again.
Not exactly.
Right.
No, not exactly. But it was what then became virtual production.
Yeah.
All of these skills we learned, we just went, oh, we know about virtual production now, and there's all this virtual. But we weren't even thinking we were going to build a studio and all of that kind of stuff. We were just keeping our company going.
Right. Okay.
And then around 2023, I think it was around 2022, we were like, we should build a studio and do this properly and like learn all these incredible skills that we've learned.
Right.
Use all these incredible skills that we've learned and do it for whomever wants it. So whether it's a commercial, corporate video, TV show, film, whatever it is, we could provide the service. And it took a long time to find our studio.
Yeah. Well, so that was 2 years ago, 3 years
So
ago?
2022, we should raise some money. So we went and raised some money. I think 2023, let me get this right. 2023, we found the studio.
Right.
We started working on some work at the end of 2023. We closed the studio to refurbish it because it was a bit run down.
Right.
And then in 2024, around April, we did our first job, which was very, very stressful. Nick and I came to lots of blows during that. And then we did our official launch, which you attended in, I suppose, April 2024. That was our official launch. That said, we'd been working on this workflow from 20, 21, 22, 23, 25 years by the time we officially launched.
Yeah.
So we were pretty down with it. But I think you ask some of the team, they were like, whoa, we're flying by the seat of our pants. Oh my God. Whoa. But I've always been very confident in the team and their knowledge. There's a lot of like, Johnny, you sure about this? Da, 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 da. And I'm like, yes, let's do this. But there's a lot of, it's not tested. We haven't done it enough, and da 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 da. And ultimately, the team kind of have every time have performed incredibly well.
It's one of those things. It's like, you can't. You got to break some eggs, right? Make some omelets, and sometimes you have to just do it.
No, absolutely.
You just have to do it, and I think the types of personalities that make up a really strong team has to have people who are really worried and have that check, as well as the people who are really bullish and really willing to go through the front door and just do it all.
It's a real tension. You've got to run a business, you've got to get clients in, and they want to do these crazy things, and your team are going, we can do it, but we need another day, or we need another week, or we need another month, or whatever it is. And ultimately, you've got to keep the lights on, you've got to get money flowing, you've got to run a business, right?
Right.
And you are going to test people, and people are going to have to dig deep and get into and also just be confident in their abilities, because I think there's a lot of if you're a really good practitioner of this stuff, you're always doubtful about, is it going to work?
Yeah.
Is it, especially when the client comes in and you're taking their money, quite a lot of it sometimes, and you're the person that's got to make all this work. Nick's a really key person, obviously, but he's like, if he was, in the early days, if he wasn't there, if he came down with COVID, we'd have all been screwed, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of
I could have, in fact, I did come down with COVID and had to leave set, and nothing happened.
Right. There you go.
If he'd have come down with COVID, we were like, don't talk to Nick. We don't want him to get COVID.
Right.
We would have all been quite screwed. And then the team around him, we've got a guy who's coming up for 10 years working with us as an employee, called Ed. He was sort of like coming along with Nick on this whole thing, and they all went on this this was after these first things. They all went on the Unreal Fellowship, this really intense
I've heard about that.
really intense 6-week course daily. And the first one that Ed did started, I think, at 7 in the morning and finished at 2 in the morning, because it was only run from LA.
Right.
So he had to stay up all evening. So he, he was working because he was there, but he was 6 weeks on this course.
Wow.
And he came out, and then luckily the next time we put someone on, which was Nick, it was in UK time. So at least he could do that. And there was a moment where I went, Ed, you could come in because you're only working like 6 till 2 in the morning. You could come in for a bit in the day and we could carry on. And he was just like, John, this isn't, no, I can't come in because I've been working a full day.
Yeah.
I went, yeah, of course. Oh, yeah, of course.
Well, yeah.
Of course, yeah.
But you, pretty sure.
But, you know, this whole team that we've had around us, which we've added to over the years, has kind of got better and better and better. And, you know, we were doing another XR event for another agency in Dublin. And we met a guy called Stephen Boyd, who's this amazing talent that we found working in this project for Hendrix. And we were doing, it was a drinks event.
Right.
And it was a completely green screen Unreal workflow.
Right.
They'd really nailed it. And he had different set of skills. He was an Unreal master. It's not an Unreal master, an Ultimate master.
Right.
Which, as you know,
it's dark art, man.
it's a dark art. And I was just like, fuck, you can really get that key really well. And he was really between him and another guy called Sean, they had between them they could like, you know, step in for each other. And they knew how to run this studio really well. And we a year later we were like, we need somebody else. And we're like, we need that guy.
Right.
And we've been talking to Sean as well. And he had come over with his wife and I think he took a job somewhere else. And Stephen was just about ready to kind of leave where he was working and then came and joined us. Right. And he's still with us now.
Do you think employment wise, you know, in this sort of area, it's like actually you can only really have full-time people rather than freelancers? Because
that's a leading question.
Well, it didn't
because I mean it's very difficult. So I don't want to speak ill of anybody, but I felt that you need to have a team that can support and dovetail and learn off each other.
Well, they know,
and so many studios are and companies and workflows are lots of freelancers coming and going, and so you. At the end of the day, we've got assets. We've got you've got microphones and computers and screens and all sorts of things. But really, the assets that you have in your company are your staff.
Right.
And if you're freelance, those staff aren't remotely yours. They just leave at the end of the day, and they can go and work anywhere. But I and Steve, my business partner, and Rob, who's my other newer business partner, have always felt that we want to keep that community, the skill set, the learning, the knowledge. Although we share it, we're very open and we share it with anybody really that asks. We want to keep that in house, and that you know, I've always found when you employ someone, it takes a couple of years to kind of really get to know them and get that working relationship going.
For sure. It's trust, right?
Well, it's less about trust. It's more about nuance. It's about understanding. When you've said something to them and their eyes change a little bit,
and you go,
oh, maybe he doesn't want to do that, or maybe he's really excited about that, and you kind of look at these people and you go, I really know this person deeply, and I can kind of we can operate this thing together.
And I guess what you said earlier on about each studio or each setup have their own ways of doing things. Having people. If everyone had that and they were all freelancers, they'd all be coming into something that was completely, I've never done it that way before.
We see it all the time because we go into lots of situations where, you know, film production is by its very nature freelance driven.
Yeah,
and there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
But it's a crew coming together and kind of learning off each other and getting to know each other, and they may be together for weeks, months, maybe years, and then you've got this kind of working flow. If you watch any documentaries about long-running series or you know, Harry Potter, you know, that long 10 years of people constantly working together, or Game of Thrones or any of those, and you watch, you know, I'm a sucker for BTS sort of movies and all of that, you know, shows, and you see that shorthand that people develop over a long period of time, and it's amazing. But when you're trying to do something as crazily creative and as crazily technical as virtual production, and you know, let's face it, you're constantly making mistakes with it, and you're constantly learning from those mistakes and getting it better next time, so that the next client that comes in, that won't ever happen.
Because it's still one very small tooth in a relatively small wheel within
within the industry.
within
Yeah,
the industry.
yeah,
It's a really niche
yeah,
thing, but
yeah.
it's like incredibly. I always say to people, it's a bit like knee surgery. If you do it every single day, if you're doing 2 or 3 knee replacements every day, actually it's quite
Well, it's
easy.
difficult because the team come and go because within the company, even because we've got Distortion Studios, but we've also got Studio Giggle, which is the content creation company that mainly works in the events.
Right.
And then they'll go off for 3 months, and then they'll come back, and it's just like, oh, I've got to
Where do I
get that
start?
muscle memory back
Yeah,
in.
yeah, yeah.
And like we did a couple of days of demos last week or the week before, and Ed had come back from quite a long time away from the studio.
Right.
And it took him, it doesn't take him long, but it was like, oh crikey, how does all this work again? But and also Nick,
Totally.
Nick, we've got. So in the last 2 years, we've also got a guy called Conrad, who is our studio technician, who has sort of been Nick's mentee, I suppose. Nick's
Right.
been his mentor, and he's been kind of instilling all of this information into this poor,
Right.
this guy, and he now can completely run the studio all on his own.
Right.
Nick's running around doing all sorts of other things. Like he's just come
Well
back
done.
from Glastonbury,
Well, that's
running the Icon stage. So, and we've been doing all these shoots without him, and
Right.
so that is a real testament to someone who can train somebody up and go, there you go.
And that is so key, right, in the industry, is someone being able to willing to let go of their baby, because if you don't do that, it really stymies any sort of
Well, I
growth
think
and
by the
stuff.
end of 5-6 years of doing this, I think Nick was
Ready to push it.
ready to go. There you are, my young
Yeah.
Padawan.
Go
and
Go away.
create. Yeah, absolutely.
So you set up
Distortion.
Studios. Thank you. And then so I came to your launch, which was sort of 18 months ago, 18 months away.
Yeah.
And you had a great set, and you did some amazing stuff with the train. There was a train there.
Was there a train? Yeah, there was a train scene. So there's a lot of like travel sim stuff. So we had people on a train. We had a sort of LA sort of Nevada desert. There we didn't do a car. We did a Nevada desert. We did a motel. We did, look, because there's a lot of. You did review it. You did a great review. We did. It was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago. And
and we're old.
Yeah. So you've done that. So one thing struck me about that: you got an LED wall, but you also got a green wall as well.
So the studio we took over. So there was a studio called Band Studios, and it had it was basically half cove.
Right.
So with curves,
infinity stage, kind of thing.
Infinity coves. So you could have it as a white photographic studio,
right,
as a green or a blue screen.
Got you.
And that we really leaned into that because the first job post official launch, because we'd done an LED based advert in the November 23. But in the first job we got, we had this beautiful Row BP2 V2 wall in. The first job we got in, it's green. We're doing it in green because it was a documentary series called Prime Suspect Earth, which is out.
Right.
And it was a Weather Channel show, so it really kind of leaned into that kind of, deep focus depth.
Right.
Everything's in focus.
Right.
And people wandering around looking down onto the floor, and like it was an evidence sort of show about how did this phenomenon happen.
Yeah, which is tough to do.
It's tough to do on a budget, documentary budget.
Right.
And so you kind of want people to be on a green screen floor so that they can walk around in the environment. Whereas on an LED wall, you've got to create set.
Yeah.
Or have an LED floor, which in
itself is challenging.
Is not practical really, and it's not what virtual production is. But you've got the LED green floor and then green walls, and then they can walk around in this environment. And so one set was Boston 1911, another set was Snowy Mountain Desert, Vietnam during the Vietnam War. There was I forget what the village was called, but a Cornish village that was flooded, and we were creating all of these scenes. I think in the end there was like, I think there was like 18
Oh wow.
environments or
Right.
something that the lads created in the office.
And then, but then you've got the LED wall. So
So we can do both.
So
So we've got a full big LED green screen cove, and then a 11 by 4 meter row wall.
because we talked about it, this sort of the concept of the hybrid, which is what
Yeah.
you've got. There can't
Yeah.
be that many of them about. And it's have you done anything that's utilised both at the same time, or is it either been
No.
it's going to be an LED wall? or it's
No,
gonna be
I mean we can, and I
Yeah.
think we sort of showed it a little bit in that first demo we did, maybe, but not every time. But I think towards the end I think everyone was getting a bit cocky, and then was moving the camera off on the extended reality version where we had.
Oh, there was sand. Was there sand?
Yeah. So we had a bit of steel deck with rubble and sand on it, and then we were able to kind of create the extended reality round.
Right,
And
that
by
was
that
it.
very nature, we were able to move it across. And I seem to remember Nick going, "Oh, let's move the camera over there." I may be misremembering.
Yeah, I remember
it,
it.
but
Yeah, but I think it was. I mean, I mean, it was a very complex thing that you were trying to do, which you would never ever see. No one would ever do that, and that's the.
I mean, you can do it, and
No,
and
what
I,
I mean
and I
is that
think there are cases where you could do that, but I wouldn't.
What I mean
I
is
wouldn't recommend it.
What I mean is that you wouldn't do a one shot where you're going from a train to a car to a hotel
No,
room to
no,
thing.
no.
You know,
Unless you're leaning into it, like there's that brilliant Chemical Brothers
Brothers,
thing where, she'd go back into the airstream,
Yeah.
and then the environment, and it was a kind of one take wonder.
Yeah.
It was brilliant. I just thought it really leaned into the benefits of LED. There was the Ari stage, I think the CT lot that did that, and I was really like,
Well,
they really nailed that.
I spoke to the one of the guys on there. I'm trying to remember his name, so apologies. And he said, yeah, they made a lot of it up as they went along as well, because
We all were.
because they well, in as much as the creatives, and I think one of the beauties of that is that the technology worked. So then actually it became a
You
creative
could become
tool,
creative, yeah.
right, rather than it being,
Yeah.
oh, we can do that. but
Well,
it's gonna be half a
I
day."
I did a presentation this morning, and I was just like plan,
Yeah.
pre-production. But once you've got a robust tech stack, and you can then get really, really creative with
Yeah.
it. And I think that production of that Chemical Brothers video, I mean, it was a couple of years ago now, I think,
Yeah, easy.
was a really good example of you could play.
Yeah.
You could start playing in that environment.
Yeah.
And it's something that we say don't do, because people are spending a lot of money, and you don't want to be in that situation where they don't leave with what they want.
Yeah.
But I think if you've got a very robust sort of studio, and that clearly was and is, you can start really getting creative with it. And we're sort of at that stage now. But still, so much of our stuff is very commercial, and we don't want to. There's a certain level of risk around. Could we just, let's just try this, and we're like, okay. And we have done a lot of that stuff, but it is a bit nerve-wracking, because the thing that the big goal for us is that people leave and go, that was brilliant.
Right.
There's so many people have said to us, "Oh, virtual production, we did it. It was a nightmare."
Yeah.
And I just the absolute goal is for everyone to leave and go, "That was amazing. Let's go back and do that again."
And And
I hate it.
Next time, can we do it this way?
Can we do this?
Can we do that?
You see, when people
Right.
walk into a VP studio, and a really creative person walks in, and they see it actually working, and all the pennies. You see all the pennies dropping in
Literally.
their heads, and they go, "Oh, I could do this, and I could do that." And I go, "Oh, it's like the world's my oyster."
It's like, I have to say, it's like Glee. It's like grown-up Glee. It's grown-up Christmas morning stuff. And they go and go, wow, we can do all of this kind of stuff.
Especially creative filmmakers
Yeah.
that can really suddenly see how they could tell stories using this.
And it can be, and I think it's brilliant when it comes together and you can just do that kind of stuff. And then having the voice of insanity.
The voice of
insanity, like Nick going,
Well, I mean, we were
really
talking
key,
about this just before this. It's like, there's Nick, who is the linchpin of everything, and especially early doors, like, he had to go in and go, "Oh, this will work."
Yeah.
And
keep going.
yeah, this will work. And if you don't, you know, his reputation will live and die by the fact that this works or doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
And I'm there going, I've got to run a business. We've set this fucking thing up. I've got to run this bloody business now. Like, I created a business by mistake.
Yeah.
And we need to pay everybody. We need to pay their salaries and all of that. We need work. And there's this real tension between, I've got this amazing client. They need to come. They're going to come in, and we're going to show them. And you know, there's this sort of tendency, and correctly so, of like, what's this shot? Okay, no, that's not going to work. And I'm like, don't say that. They've got 30 grand.
Yeah.
And of course, he's right. He's right, because you
Yeah.
do not want that company to come in and it not work.
Well, I guess that was one of the challenges from the get-go, was that people said, no, this will work. All it is a big LED ball. We're going to put a camera in front of it. What could, you know?
Oh, there's so many myths. There's so many myths.
That's easy.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
That's easy to
Like,
do that.
oh, the LED will light your subject. It's
Right,
like, no, it
it's
won't.
never done
Yeah,
that.
you need bloody
It's like
big
you need-
lights.
Yeah, exactly. Immersive
Oh,
lighting.
there's no
right?
post-production. Yes, there is.
It's like, yeah, the colours.
Of course you can do final pixel stuff, and
Right.
of course we do it all the time. But, you know, if you're promising perfection, you're lying.
Yeah.
You know, it's not perfect. It's
And
never going to be perfect.
And sometimes, you know, and it's better ways of doing it.
Yeah.
There are better ways of doing it as well. Cool. What about, so what are you up to at the moment? What's going on?
Well, we've just finished these demos. You know, we're hustling for business. We've just finished a couple of commercials, which have been brilliant fun. One was really interesting, actually. They came in very late, like 2 weeks to go, and the director came. The director came, and it's really interesting. It's a big financial company in the States, through another production company, and the director, I think the owner of the company, wanted it to be done in AI as much as possible.
Right.
And so we created. We talked with him a lot, and he created. There were 7 scenes, 7 environments,
Right.
5 of which were created in AI.
Right.
And
Okay.
so, for example, it would be let's say it's a sitting room or a kitchen, and then we would cut out the windows and put another plate behind, so we could get that
Got you.
parallax in the scene.
So it was only when the AI was created, it was just 2D. It was obviously just 2D.
It was 2D, yeah,
was a 2D
and it
plate,
works.
right?
I mean, 2D plates work beautifully.
Yeah.
You know, if
you
you've
just
got
need
that,
what they're doing, right?
yeah, yeah. If you really play to the strength of the 2D
Yeah.
plates and create some near, some mid, and some far environment, and even in a you know, or you can you can have a desk with some flowers or a plant, and then a room. The real blowing one was they came and they had some AI children playing in the background. They were just because it was very quick cuts, you know,
Right.
like
Yeah,
seconds,
Right.
and these kids were just sort of moving blocks around, and it was just like, wow, you don't need chaperones for those kids,
Right.
because they're in the computer.
AI.
And then we did a couple of shots, which was an office, which was unreal, and then a really lovely shot of a New York subway.
Right.
And you know, it's just someone holding onto a lighting stand and just moving around, and a proper look. We mucked. It was very clean.
Right.
Stock. When I say stock, we got it off. I forget the name of the company, but he's on the channel.
Right.
He's on Starting Pixel quite a lot, called Chetan in India.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah. He was great, and I went, have you got any? Because we're so quick around. Have you got any subways? And he was just like, well, we have metros. And I went, no, I need a New York subway. And he went, is this a new? And it was really like a New York subway. And we took it and we mucked it up a bit, and we
Right.
cut out the windows, and we had like, you know,
Subway
the subway going past, and camera movement, and it just worked beautifully. And that was 7 scenes shot in 2 days, and that was really, really good. And then we more recently we worked with a production company out of Birmingham called Tinker Tailor, who came in and really seized it, and they did, and it was kind of a comedy piece as well. So,
Right.
you know, there's a pirate on a ship, and there was a kind of kraken, and then there was a boxing thing with a sort of kind of wimpy guy who was just like, and then huge wrestler comes in and just picks him up. I mean, he was like the Man Mountain from Game of Thrones. I mean, this guy was enormous.
Physical actor.
Physical actor.
Actually a human actor,
A
not
human
like
actor, but I mean, I wasn't on set. I wasn't
just
there,
sort of-
but I saw the rushes and the behind the scenes, and this guy was enormous. It was just like, oh my god. And you know, we've had some really, really fun things going through the studio lately.
Have you got to see? Do you you know, looking back over the last 5 years, or well, you know, last maybe two or three since COVID ended, which wasn't very long. Actually, it's like
Oh god, it's
like
all a
none.
blur, really, isn't it?
What are you seeing? Are you seeing it? People are getting it more. People are
It's
embracing it more.
it's a really, I mean, it's really difficult to call. I mean, yes, people are getting it more,
You're not
but
out of business, so you've been able to keep the lights on, right?
being able to keep the lights on, it's been tough. It's not.
Yeah.
I'm not
Well,
sugarcoating it.
everything's been tough.
There's
unless you're
everything's been
banking.
tough. I mean, you know, there's obviously the writer's strike just put everything to a stop.
Yeah.
We've got great relationships. We're in Bristol. I don't know if we mentioned that. The studio's in Bristol, and we've got great relationships with all. You know, Bristol. We're really lucky in Bristol because we've got a film industry in Bristol. You know, there's. You know, I actually not stupidly because I love it, but I live in Brighton,
Right.
and the studio and all the team are in Bristol.
So you get the helicopter.
I've got a helicopter.
in the morning,
Yeah,
right.
well, it's actually a private jet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I cycle to the station
So I cycle.
and I get a train via Portsmouth. It takes
Really?
3 hours. Or I do drive occasionally. But it's
Yeah, so Bristol, and it's a
Bristol.
film-
Sorry, the community in Bristol is
Yeah.
extremely strong. So we've got a great Bristol. The Bristol Film Office is amazing.
Right.
The council own the bottle yard, or they're about to sell it to somebody, and we've got a great relationship with them. At the beginning of the year, we had a wonderful contract with an Apple TV show
Right.
that's coming out later in the year. So we did all of the travel sim, car plates, car wash, you know, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
You know, people in cars with LED around them. At the bottle yard, we popped up there. All of our servers and everything is all in flight cases, so we were able to travel it quite easily. So we went to the bottle yard and did that. And there's a great community of increasing VP.
I heard.
We've also Bristol University, Bath University, UWE, and Bath Spa all gathered together behind the University of Bristol and created a thing called My World, which we were really lucky to have a grant from, which has meant we've been able to, and this is really exciting, we've been able to kind of get into volumetric capture as well. So now we're literally today, the team have been at Bath University in their volumetric capture kind of cage.
Explain what volumetric capture
So volumetric capture is when I can film you, but from all angles.
Right.
And you know, it's usually photographic, so you get a still of somebody and then you can kind of animate them, but this is trying to kind of get them moving, you know, motion. And at the moment there's a lot of stop, you know, it's kind of like quite stop motion-y because you've got to take it into Unreal and then kind of move it along frame by frame, so it feels very animated, but we're kind of getting there. And we've been really lucky to have this sort of, I suppose, 10 months of R&D, of like, we've not had to do it for any commercial reason. But then what's happened during that time is that Gaussian splatting has kind of really taken off.
Yeah.
And so we've been the wonderfully named Gaussian splatting, which of course is a kind of photogrammetry but with 3D. And so you can basically, we've been got our hands on an X-grid scanner, and we're able to now go out and within an hour go and completely scan an environment and then bring that into Unreal.
Yeah, which is pretty cool.
Then we've just did it for the first time a couple of weeks ago, and the possibilities for location scouting, pre-production, pickup shots, all of it. You know, it's just, you know, you forget to get that return shot.
Yeah.
I'll come into the studio. We've got the location scanned, and it captures the lighting of the day. I mean, it's a total game changer.
Yeah.
So that's the next thing that we're working on, and the current thing we're working on. So we'll be showcasing that as part of the.
Nick getting his teeth into that one.
Oh yeah, totally, totally, yeah,
Loving, living his best
Well,
life.
it's even better because there's no one like going, I need this tomorrow for this this show or this event or this film or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So it's just like the team have for the first time really been able to kind of play without having any kind of.
I was going to say, how do you work the R&D
commercial
side out? Because that's important to get them to work stuff out, break things.
Well, I mean, it's all been R&D
I mean, it
really,
has
but
been
it's there's been a bit of a kind of commercial cosh on top of us, kind of going,
Right.
we need to get this done by September because I've said to the guy that's got all the money that we're
Yeah.
going to do it, and you can do it, can't you? Whereas this is
Right.
much more kind of like, if we don't get it, we don't get it because it's not ready yet,
Right.
and you know, processors aren't there yet, or the graphics cards aren't there yet, or we can't afford them is another thing, because the amount of money that it's like.
Starts.
You know, it's like people used to make the joke about sailing. You know, you might as well just get in a shower and just rip in a cold shower and just rip pound notes. Back in those days, £5 notes up.
Yeah.
But it, you know, VP is just like, it's such an expensive game.
Well, it is. So the interesting thing. So you know, we're sitting in a effective, I guess, a VP podcast studio now, right?
Yeah.
The interesting thing is that this wouldn't have been possible even 12 months ago. It was too expensive, too overcomplicated.
No, it's seriously impressive, all the kit that you've. I mean, it's not lots of it, but
there's not lots of it.
It's all Blackmagic kit that is commercial and you know, film standard, but not crazy expensive.
No. And I mean, that is
and it's not free though, is it? You've still invested.
It really
in
isn't
this.
free.
You know?
It really isn't.
And it's not. It's still. Ooh.
Yeah, but it's not too.
It's not. No.
Actually, you know, it's not like
it's not hundreds of thousands of pounds. No, it's thousands of pounds.
It's thousands
hundreds
of pounds.
I
mean, it's probably tens of thousands.
Yeah.
Of pounds. But again, you know, I was sort of trying to make it up as I go along as well, which is one of the hard things, is making those technology choices that you get, and you go, do I go for the expensive thing that I know is going to work, or do I go for the cheaper thing?
Well, a big problem for us.
On paper, it should work.
Well, a big thing for us is that disguise has been the poison. Everyone's server of choice,
right?
And they got it really early.
Yeah.
And you know, the GX2s came out and they could handle it, and you had the render nodes, and we were using that an awful lot. But you know, as everybody knows, disguise is eye-wateringly expensive. Like, I mean, just there you're in excess of 100 grand,
right?
And you know, it's been great that there are ways of doing this without having to invest over £100,000 in one element of your stack.
Yeah, and to a degree, you know, that's because a lot of it was built for, you know, it was built for broadcast.
Well, it's for
top end film, right?
It's for top end film,
and
of course,
it's got to be expensive.
Well, and also
got to work.
They were the first ones out of the box. You know, I remember when UVA came up with D3 back in the 2000s, and that, especially for projection mapping, because we were doing projection mapping, it was the first out of the box mappable media server,
right?
And it was called D3, and then I think they had to change the name at some point to Disguise, and that is and they've constantly been iterating its technology, and absolutely you should charge a premium for that, because they literally kind of invented the wheel.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there are ways of doing it that are a bit more affordable, you know, and a bit more kind of entry level that you can do.
I think that the interesting thing of you know, I think about the setup we've got here is actually it would be a great training opportunity for a lot of people as well, because it has everything pretty much here you'd need to teach anyone the fundamentals of VP.
Yeah, absolutely.
Except for camera tracking. I mean, and that's
which everything's locked off. You don't need it. I mean, you know, quite often we're doing car shoots.
Yeah,
you don't need camera tracking.
No.
Because it's just going,
right,
and you're just, you know, if you move the camera, you're not going to notice the difference.
Unless something some sort of,
you know, you don't need the hassle of camera tracking if you don't need the hassle of camera tracking, and you've got A-list celebrities sitting in a car going, and you just get it done, right? And it works brilliantly. So you know, you don't need everything to do everything. You know, anything really. You can just really cut your cloth according to what you need.
And I think that, you know, we were talking about a bit earlier on. It's like there is this sort of the knee-jerk reaction, desire necessary to literally try to put all the whistles and bangs into something
Mm.
in order to be able to do it. And, you know, to your point, so, I mean, how many shots in an entire film are close-ups as well, right? You know, 70% of them. I mean, how many of those do you don't even need?
Well, I mean, you know, it lends itself to close-ups, drama, subject, you know,
Yeah,
people talking, and then a blown out kind of sense of a background. You know, you do your establishing shot, and then the drama's in the conversation, in the in the drama of the characters.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's so much that can be done within VP. But, you know, like we've always said, you know, it's certainly not a silver bullet, you know, for everything.
But it's, I think it's hopefully. I mean, I think it is coming of age.
We started working with a brilliant guy called Bedos Mavambu, who came out of the Lux team, the Lux Machina team, and he just had this. He must have, you know, got it through working. He's worked on Masters of the Air and Barbie and Hijack, but he's great at doing these script breakdowns of, like, you know, you get the script and kind of go, that will work in VP, that won't work in VP, that will work in VP with these changes.
Yeah.
And you know, I think the difficulty is getting into a really strong dialogue with the production, and going, you know, trust us with this, because I think there has been a lot of problems around VP and like years of development, and you know, it's hard-won experience that people really need to kind of. They need to rely on you, and you know, unless they've done it before, it's very difficult for them to trust you.
Totally. Jonathan.
Yes.
I think we're going to run out of. We're going to run out of.
Are we going to run out of hard drive?
We're going to run out of hard drive because we've been talking so long.
Yeah.
It's been brilliant talking to you. Thank you so much.
A pleasure. I love talking to you, Rob. And also, you've supported us all the way through this, and we're very grateful for starting Pixel because. You know, we found St. Pixel and we went, oh, there's loads of people like us.
Well, that's the reason. Well, that was the main thing. Also, because I then could get asked stupid questions.
No, you've done an amazing thing putting this community together because it's disparate, and what a lot of different people there are out there doing.
And that's your bit. What a different piece of technologies, all pulling in different directions sometimes, and trying to get them in the right direction. And just, it's like, what did I do the other day? Actually, it was to do with this podcast setup. And I was, we were trying to work out how to actually get the comp out of Unreal, actually the backplate out of Unreal through the Cine camera, talking Unreal Engine, everyone. Cine cameras placed in Unreal, and then trying to get that as a backplate out of Unreal and to do the comp in. And there was this convoluted process to be able to program. We were going to have to do blueprints and all sorts of things to be able to get this the right thing. And then 5.6 dropped, and it worked out of the box.
It worked.
It's like,
when you could, you know, years of like doing these things, and then a software developer, a hardware developer, whatever, suddenly just goes, here you go, done.
Here you go, done. Literally, and it's like, if I'd done this 6 months ago, that bit just
it's just constantly moving, constantly.
And then it came out, and it's just like, oh no, it works.
Well, like this environment that we just scanned, you know, you know, with using this scanner, you know, it's just like there's an environment, a real environment that's photo real.
Hold on a minute, it's sure. Yeah, and that was only just a few years ago.
Yeah.
Anyway,
thanks for having me on your
wonderful
podcast, and it's been a pleasure.
And we'll be live soon. Because it's a bit early. We're recording a bit early this week.
Oh,
so
okay.
So I'll do it. I'll edit it.
Well, I shall not watch it. There's nothing worse than watching yourself back.
Oh, yeah, the voice.
Yeah. I bet you have to do it all the time because you're editing this stuff together.
But the weird thing is...
I know you've got AI now, haven't you, that can just cut it all together. You don't have to watch it.
No, absolutely. But also the weird... not the weird thing, I suppose it's quite obvious, really. So I naturally quite a shy person. And when I first started doing these, I don't know, 6 months ago, you know, my brain was all over the place. I was trying to, you know, it was really challenging saying la, you know, all this kind of stuff. And it's an obvious, guess what? Practice. 6 months later.
This is why I start off my story as I was a cellist, a classical musician.
Right.
Because everything needs practice and discipline.
Right.
You know? And if you're willing to put in the hours, you'll get there with it. Yeah, and believe me, we've put in the hours.
Yes. Man.
So that's why I sort of tell that story, because I think it's such an important quality to have in anybody, really, that you're willing to kind of just keep going with it, and eventually you'll get there.
Yeah, totally.
Or the technology will catch up with you.
Yeah, exactly. And then somebody will come out with some new bit of thing. And
Yeah.
go, oh, I really?
Yeah.
I don't need. It's a bit. I was talking about someone about how it'll come. It actually was the Rest is Entertainment podcast, and they were talking about how things get automated, and then the people who had been automated, if they're still doing it, become these craftspeople that
They're gone
can't
now.
find.
Yeah, they're gone.
So it's like
already they're gone.
Typewriter engineers is the classic one I tend to use. Is like you will find someone who can fix your typewriter that's 100 years old, but as soon as that person retires,
it's gone.
It's gone. And it's like, and that would be the interesting thing with AI, I think.
Yeah,
as well.
yeah. Passed on knowledge.
On that.
Anyway, on that note, thank you. Bye, kids.